Hello and welcome back to another special video about Mass of Orion. In this video I'm going to talk more about the races that the game has, at least in the current state that the game has. I don't think they'll add any more races, but I'm pretty certain that they'll throw the balance around a little bit, so when the release hits then you may want to check if anything's changed, because in the recent versions stuff did change around. The idea for this video is basically to provide you with some information about the races, which one of them are good and why they're good, and also some other interesting stuff that you should do if you try to optimize things. Because some of the races are a little bit weird. I'll go into more about that later. First, before I start with the first race, the Akari, I want to draw your attention to the ability to make a custom race. Basically, if you choose a custom race, you can select an appearance by choosing one of the existing races, and then you can distribute your points manually. You have 10 points available that you can distribute among stuff. I'm not going into all of them right now, or I'm not going into that at all. But for each race, I'm gonna tell you how many points they would have spent if you made a custom race with exactly the same features. There's some unique stuff that some of the races have that you can't get through custom races right now. So there's that, and there's also some custom race abilities that none of the existing races have, like credits from population nobody has, for instance. Any modifier too, so. Just that you're aware when I say this race would be worth so many points as a custom race in order to bring a point across, then you know that I mean, if you were to create a custom race with just the same abilities, how many points would it actually be worth? Because it explains quite a little bit of things about why some races are actually performing subpar, because some seem to be really designed to be subpar for some reason. I don't really know, but I'll go more into that later. So let's start with our first race. I'm just going down this grid, so just so you're aware, if some races don't interest you, there'll be shortcuts again that by clicking on the right hand side you can just skip to other things, including a discussion about if you design a completely custom race not inspired by any of the existing races, which things you should pick. Alright. So let's get this thing going with the Akari. The Akari are a little bit average in most aspects. Basically, they don't really have any maluses that sort of hamper them in early and mid game. They have a small bonus in the early game because they have artifacts on their homeworld. Basically, by having artifacts on their homeworld, I think you have a natural +2 research bonus every turn, and since you have your homeworld from turn 1, this will amount to a slight research bonus that you continue to have in the early game. In the later stages of the game, the small +2 bonus really doesn't matter that much anymore, but it'll help you a little bit in the early game, so you need to assign less people to research while still being able to maintain the same research speed as someone who has no research modificator would have. So that's interesting. It's a small boost in the early game. In the very late stages of the game, they have an interesting ability with natural pilots. Basically, this makes them hit better with beam weapons and makes them less likely to get hit by beam weapons. And they also travel faster, both on the galaxy map and in the battle. In the battle, this can be interesting because you can try to outmaneuver and outflank your opponents. So they're average, but they have some interesting abilities and have a slight research focus. That's basically the Akari for you. And they have no real obstacles in their way. They're just average. Let's talk about someone who's really not average. Let's go here so the speaker shuts up. The Bharathi. The Bharathi are actually probably the most powerful of the races in the game right now. The main reason for that is they have a pollution tolerance bonus that is especially helpful in the early and late stages of the mid game, where you don't have deep core mines yet, because in the mid stage of the game, production and pollution management will become an issue. A lot of your hypothetically productive colonies will not be able to be as productive as they can be because you generate a lot of waste. So they'll either have to slow down with their production, or you'll have to sacrifice some turns every like 20 to 25 turns just to clear up the pollution. So having additional pollution tolerance like the Bharathi has helps out a lot. Also, their homeworld is much better. It's both rich and large, so you can have more people on it and you can have a higher production there. Again, helped by the pollution tolerance bonus, you can actually also use it. So they have a good bonus in the beginning. The ecologist helps in the mid game too. Then they have additional bonus with not being affected by high gravity, which sort of helps you being able to have a wider planet selection. And then they have this as a small cherry on top. They have a ground combat bonus, which helps you when you try to conquer someone. And they don't really have any disadvantage. That's the beauty of them, right? They have bonuses that help them in productivity a lot, but they're not really but they really have no issues like in research or fruit production or growth. They're just average there with a large bonus in production. They're excellent. If you want to produce a custom race, then without the ground combat bonus, which there is no special pick that you could do there, it would cost 11 points without that already, just the 4 bonuses here, which again underlines for why they're currently so powerful. At least currently. I'm thinking they'll try to tune them down somehow, but not sure how you would actually do that. So they're pretty powerful. If you want to make for like an easier first game, then they're pretty decent. Let's move on to the next one, to the Tarlac. Starting trying to talk again? Yes, okay. The Tarlac, yes. They're pretty unique, basically because they have stealthy, which means that their ships can't be seen from far away, and they have a better chance to do spying operations. And they're also less likely to get spied on because they have a security bonus, and they can also infiltrate other societies better. I'm not sure if the assimilation power, how that helps. Maybe it helps them to not get found. I'm not sure how assimilation power differs from mission risk, because you don't actually assassinate people normally. Anyway, in any event, they're very focused on spying. They're average everywhere else and have no bonuses, but not any malice either. They have a small morale bonus of +5, which matters a little bit, but not much. Basically, morale only helps you being able to maintain higher taxes than usual without your people going on strikes. So that's sort of good. The basic starting tech is okay, but not one of the best. So they're average with a focus on spies. If you like spying and don't like to get spied upon, then they're okay. No doubt about that. If you were to construct a custom race like them, that would actually cost 12 points. I'm not saying they're actually good. I think they're actually sort of below average because they don't really have any useful bonuses. Because in the early game you will lag behind the others because others most likely have early game bonuses. And then you can try to catch up by using your spies. So if that can work out, then fine. But otherwise they're below average. Alright, let's move on to the next guy, which would be us, humans. Yay. Before he talks. Alright. Humans again have Diplomat, which is a slight morale bonus. They can make treaties and maintain a higher disposition with other people better. And if they make trade treaties, then they get more money out of it. And they have a security malus. If the security malus is sort of a deal breaker for you, is sort of your own opinion. They don't have any early game bonuses, but once they have a lot of alien contacts. By just using diplomacy, you can get a pretty decent amount of money just by trading with everyone and maintaining neutrality and stuff. So they're okay in the early to mid stages of the mid game. Later, aliens will start to not like you because you'll probably continue to expand, and if you have more colonies than everybody else, then everybody will start to fear you, hate you, or something in between. And probably everybody will spy upon you and try to annoy the shit out of you with spies, and having a security malus is a problem at that point. So, yeah. Without the security malus, you can't actually give yourself a security malus in custom races. They would cost 13 points, so they're about average in value there. But they really have no distinct abilities other than they're diplomatic, sort of. Alright, let's move on to the next one, the Klakon. The Tlacon have some production bonuses and fruit production bonuses, which are pretty important because this way your workers will produce faster and you get more food, which will mean that your population will grow faster. Or you can assign more people to research and maintain the same research speed. However, you have a research malus of minus 25%, which doesn't matter that much. Which matters more here is the uncreative. Basically, uncreative means that whenever you have to pick a technology between 2 to 3 choices, you cannot make the pick yourself. It's determined randomly. If you're lucky, then you get what you want, and some of the other picks aren't really that much worse than what you probably would have wanted. But in some cases, this can screw you over. Like if you don't get, if you don't get core waste dumps and instead get deep core mines, you will have a serious pollution problem. You already have a pollution problem because of the increase in population in production without any sort of increase in pollution tolerance. So there are a few picks that can potentially screw you up, but aside from that, they're pretty good. If we were to reconstruct them as a custom race, you would actually have 2 spare points. So if you want to play Tlacons, then just choose them as race genetics and reproduce all of this stuff. Let me just do that right here, which would be industrialist, subterranean, uncreative, and plus food. What's plus food? There. 50%. So you see, you would have 2 points left. You could spend that on something else, like a large planet, for instance. So you have so you can maintain a bigger population there, or probably more importantly, give yourself a plus 25 pollution tolerance bonus. Because as I mentioned just a minute ago, this can actually help offset your production bonus that you get by industrialist. Right? So just give yourself that, and you're even better than you should be. And even without doing this sort of improved custom pick, they're still good. Yeah, they're not average. They're actually still good because production and food are actually pretty significant things. So they're really good. Moving on to the next one, which would be the McClure. The McClure only have 2 traits, which is industrialist again, which gives them a production bonus, and they also, instead of having food production bonus, they have a food consumption malus or relative bonus. Basically, every unit of population requires less food. In the past, it instead required some production, which is not implemented here. So there's that. But since you have more food, since you have more leftover food, your population will increase better than a race that has no modifiers there, just because you have spare food left. So they're basically pretty similar to the Tlacons. The Tlacons had a food production bonus instead of food consumption bonus. They both have production bonuses, so they're actually pretty similar to the Tlacons. Of course, one of them is ants, one of them is robots, but aside from that, they're gameplay-wise, they are pretty similar. The McClure have these have auto repair ships as a slight bonus. In addition to that, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It can sometimes be sort of a big deal because when you're off campaigning in enemy territory and you don't have auto repair subsystems on your ships, which you probably won't have, then this way your ships will actually repair themselves after a few turns, which can help you to minimize losses. So it's sometimes helpful, but only when you actually go to war, and even then it's sort of a so-so bonus. So if you were to reproduce them, you would actually have to pay 12 points. So they're actually better than they should be in a manner of way, and they're really good. So since we had 2 good races, I guess we'll now move on to the possibly worst race in the game, which would be the Mershon. I'm not sure why they're actually so bad. Well, I know why they're so bad, but let's go into what they have going for them. I have Militarist, which is a sort of very overvalued property, which gives them an improved marine training rate. In previous versions of the game, this was sort of a bigger deal than it is now, because right now you can produce infantry, you can produce troop transports, and you don't subtract active infantry from your planets. In the past, sometimes filling up your fleet with troop transports was an issue, because whenever you build a troop transport with 4 marines in it, then you would also subtract 4 marines from your planet, and if you didn't have enough marines to fill up a troop transport, you couldn't build one. So you had to manage that a lot more, and they were actually doing a better job there because they had an improved training rate, and also because they're warlord, they also have more marines on every planet. So they sort of didn't have that problem in the past. Right now, this is a non-issue, because you can just continue producing them and not lose any of your planet-side infantry in the process. I didn't talk much about these sort of homeworld biome and Uber planet stuff much, but I'm going to talk more about that here. Arid is a sort of low-key biome that they actually treat as a Terran world, which is a slight bonus, and they can transform that to grassland, which is even better. But sort of they don't have anything beyond that. They even have, they just have improved negotiations. Funnily enough, they used to have worse negotiations in one of the previous versions of the game. So if you were to take these picks together, you can't pick improved negotiations, I think. If you were to pick these 3 together, this would cost 9 points, so with that you would probably be at like 10-ish, maybe a little bit more. But all of these picks are pretty underwhelming, especially Militarist and Warlord are pretty underwhelming. Yes, it's helpful to have a ground combat bonus so that you can conquer planets more easily, that you don't have to bring an overwhelming amount of marines against someone. It can be helpful, but it's not that significant. You could just provide more troop transports at that point in the game. So the Mershon are very underwhelming, possibly the worst race in the game right about now. Alright, so let's move on to the next one, which would be the Cylons. Let's go back. Cylons actually have creative now. I was sort of in the very early announcement stages of the game, they were sort of demonstrating the Cylons and said creative was very overpowered in the past Master of Orions. We think having a choice is good, so there should be no race that doesn't have to make a choice. And now here we are, and creative is back. Creative means that whenever you would have to make a choice, you don't have to make a choice, you get both. You also get a research bonus from population with this. They have some malices for that. So homeworld size small is a malus that you have to manage in the early mid-game stages of the game. You have to, because your homeworld is so small, I think it can only fit like 11 people or 10, something like that. It will be full pretty quickly, so you probably want to build civil transports and move some colonists out of your homeworld to somewhere else, so you can maintain your growth rate there, because Terran planets have a higher growth rate because you can get more food out of it per population, and not waste that. So that is a small issue, but you can manage that issue. The low gravity tolerance is actually a bonus here. In the past, it used to be that you can only work normally on low gravity planets, which seriously hampered you. Right now you can work normal on normal gravity planets and low gravity planets. So it's actually a small bonus, though low gravity planets are pretty rare. And you have security malus. The weird thing is, if you were to pick these choices as a custom race, you would end up with sort of like 8 points, I think. Let me actually do that because I can't read the number that I've written down. So technologist, creative, small, low gravity. Technologist, creative, small, low gravity. Yeah, we would be at 8 points. And I haven't picked the security malus because this sort of doesn't exist. And I have still two spare points left, so I could just say screw small homeworld size, and I would be at did I pick uncreative? I picked creative. So I would be at like better than the Cylons already are, and with this custom pick, you actually don't have any downsides because you just have artifacts on your homeworld, and you're creative, so you have a research bonus and the creative trait, and you have low gravity because Cylons have low gravity tolerance. So you would actually be better than you would actually be Cylons, but without the downsides, which is actually a little bit crazy. Yeah, the Cylons as they are, I would actually say they're only average, because the security malus is an issue, because everybody will try to spy on you because you do have all technologies and stuff. If you do the improved version, it's probably not average anymore. It's probably among the good or even best races of the game right now, if you like researching stuff. Alright, so that's the Cylons. Let's move on to the next one, to the Sacra. Sacra have some more starting technologies, which is a little... Yeah, you would research them early, but it's not that big of a deal. They have homeward biome swamp, which is not that important either, although swamp planets are... I've seen them more often than like arid planets, for instance. They also have uncreative, so that can screw you over, similar to what I talked about during the Tlacons. And on the plus side, they have a 50% higher population growth, which in this game means that you need only half the food. I think half the food to get to the next population size, which actually helps out a lot, because you can just grow colonists faster than anybody else, and then move them around on your planets so that everyone is able to maintain a high growth everywhere. You have repulsive for some reason, and yeah, for some reason. I said for some reason. If you were to make all these picks in a custom race, you would actually end up at only having spent 6 points and would have 4 points left, so you could remove some of the maluses, like uncreative. I think uncreative is like 4 points, 5 points. Shame. So you could remove some of the stuff and mess around with it a little bit, and you would be better. The Sacra, as they are, they're probably average. If you make an improvement on that, they're probably above average to good. Alright, let's move on to the next guys, the Silicoid. Silicoid are a very weird race. I would recommend you playing one round with them because they're very special. The main reason for that is they're lithivores. Basically that means that their population really doesn't require food to survive. They'll just eat stones or whatever. So that's that. You still require food in order to in order to affect your growth. So some of your people will be farmers because that makes your growth faster. So you shouldn't ignore farming altogether. But because none of your colonists actually has to eat, you can have fewer farmers or a higher growth speed than anybody else. So that's helpful. What's also helpful is that their homeworld biome is volcanic, and they can even make more useful planets out of it than anybody else can. So they can make use of volcanic planets, which generally most people just seem to ignore because you can't transform them to better things, and without being able to produce any food there as a normal race, you just have issues growing there, and it's not really worth the hassle. So they're at 2 significant upsides already. Then they have repulsive, which okay, it doesn't help getting better deals, but they also have gravity tolerance all for some reason, which makes you ignore gravity maluses everywhere. And their home mode is even huge. The home mode will only grow small. Will only grow with a slow speed because you can't produce food on lava planets, but it'll eventually get pretty big. Interestingly, if you were to recreate the Silicoid as a custom race, you would actually have to pay 18 fucking points because Lithivore itself is pretty expensive. Tolerant is too. Lava Breather also costs points for some reason, and Repulsive doesn't really give that many points. So you probably don't want to make a custom race like that. If you want to go for the Silicoid experience, then just take the Silicoid and experience that. It's really interesting, different way of playing. All right. So moving on to the last one, which would be Terran, the slightly more evil human variant. They're actually not diplomatic like the humans are, but they're militarists and strategists, which means they have an improved marine training rate, which, as I mentioned with the Mershon, is not that relevant anymore. The strategist, however, is, because your ship costs less and you have more command points, so with this you can maintain a larger fleet than other races could at your size. The beam attack bonus helps a little bit in the late game, and the morale bonus helps at all stages of the game, because with this you can maintain a higher tax rate than anybody else could without your people going up in strikes. So that's helpful, because more money, you can build more ships or anything else really. So they're really average, maybe slightly below average. They don't have the important growth bonuses or production bonuses, though with more money you could just make up for the lost production bonus by regularly spending money on stuff. So I don't think it's that big of a hassle, and otherwise they're just unremarkable. If you were to create a custom race like them, then even without the morale bonus, which you can't pick, these 3 things by themselves would cost 12 points already. So they're also pretty good in that regard. They are better than they should be as a custom race. Alright, I talked a lot about custom races. Now, you could also produce like your own custom race if you don't like any of the other races. As I mentioned, the sort of main go-to factors for a good custom race is having a higher population growth than the others, which you could either do by giving yourself a population growth modifier or a food production modifier, or something that makes you use up less food, like cybernetic and lithivore, though these are pretty expensive. So you probably want to go for population growth of food bonus. Aside from that, you probably want to go for production bonus. You can get this as a pure production bonus here, or from Industrialist. You can also get a plus 25% production bonus for only 1 point more, and you get a starting technology in physics, which is helpful because then you can create automated factories right away, so the 1 point might be worth it. And also you'll want to look at pollution tolerance. You can even make yourself immune to pollution, which I think would be interesting, but not really worth it, because you can eventually solve this with technology, and just having 25 or 50% helps out a lot before you get this crucial technology that you just install everywhere. So if you were to make a custom race, you would probably want to pick those. If you want to go really extreme with population growth and production bonuses, then you could choose some downsides. The downsides that most people recommend would be in beam defense and beam attack. I wouldn't go there, but some people would recommend that, so you could probably go for like these 2. And then you could maybe afford, with 12 points, you could afford something like 25% population bonus, 25% production bonus, and pollution tolerance of like 50. Maybe that should be 25 and that should be higher. So this seems to be like a semi-decent pick just made right off the spot. If you don't want to go into diplomacy, you can also take repulsive and increase the pollution tolerance to plus 50%. So let's do that. So this way you would be diplomatically isolated from everybody else, but your population really grows fast, and you have a production bonus while also having a pollution tolerance bonus, so that your production don't have to be wasted on other stuff. So that would be a pretty decent pick. In the late stages of the game, you might be hampered in using beam weapons, but then just use missiles and torpedoes. They also work fine. So that would be it for custom race selection. Alright, so this is the end. If you like this, there's stuff you can do, like hit the like button and subscribe and stuff. If you have some more ideas, then just there are comments for that, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.